Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's 10-Minute Trends hosted by Direct Agents. My name is Megan Conahan. I'm an EVP at Direct Agents.
I'm Jackson Richards, Director of Strategy with Direct Agents.
Jackson, happy early 4th of July. I almost couldn't say your name there.
Same to you. Thanks.
Yeah.
Looking forward to a long weekend.
Yeah, the four-day week always gets me. So we have a lot of really important things to cover today and two really heavy-hitting topics. So let's just jump into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is some updates on the Facebook boycott. Second thing is some consumer shopping trends as we see COVID cases rising. And then third, finally, is going to be some summer travel trends. So again, lots to cover, so we're just going to get right into it. And then as always, if you do have questions as we go through, feel free to chat them, and we'll try to get to them if we can. So today marks the first day that brands who took a stance have started their boycott against Facebook. So Jackson, I wanted to see if you could touch on a couple of things. One, just what are the updates? There's been a lot that's come out since we talked about this last week. And then two, for the brands that did pause Facebook and Instagram, where have they pivoted their media dollars to?
Sure. So this is really just starting. I think when we covered it last Wednesday. Since then, a lot of big brands, heavy spenders within Facebook and Instagram have pulled out. So that includes brands like Verizon, Starbucks, Lego, I think announced this morning, Pfizer, Honda. And, to be clear, many of these brands are directly stating that they are supporting the Stop Hate for Profit movement. Others have pulled out of Facebook and committed to continue to like a prolonged boycott of Facebook advertising, but have not necessarily said they're supporting the movement. But despite that, it's putting a lot of pressure on Facebook to make changes. But still, projections show that Facebook and Instagram for the year are likely to collect still about 24% of overall digital spending, second only to Google. So that's a ton. But with this boycott, there has been, it has made a difference to Facebook's projections for the year. So, recent projections after the boycott showed their revenue down for the year, based on earlier projections, and their stock prices has fallen some days by as much as 8%. So again, it's putting pressure on them to make changes. And in a recent town hall, Mark Zuckerberg did commit to making some changes. So they announced several steps to eliminating hateful content and ads, and particularly tramp down on false claims as it pertains to voting, and ban some white supremacist groups. So, it's not necessarily as much as like Twitter or Reddit have done in terms of either getting rid of political advertising or just doing more to clamp down on false claims or insightful words, but it is a step in the right direction. So we still have a lot to see how it's going to play out. But for the brands that have been pulling back their spending in Facebook and Instagram, many brands are in a tough spot, and that's why I think we've seen this being led by a lot of the bigger brands who can afford to they have some wiggle room in terms of eliminating one of their big acquisition channels. And we know how effective Facebook and Instagram are as acquisition channels. But, I think you asked, what are brands doing with those dollars? And I think it's the number one thing is probably committing to YouTube, Google, the entire kind of Google ecosystem, because it's safe. It's effective. Brands know what they can expect from those channels. But we're also seeing a lot of brands commit to increased testing across additional social platforms like TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest. North Face, they were one of the first brands to pull out. They said they're going to invest more in Pinterest. Other brands have announced that they're going to spend more on sponsored content or display ads or even affiliate marketing. Some brands like REI came out and said they're not even planning on reallocating that budget to paid marketing. It's more going to be investing in other areas of their business. So it really depends. I think, in general, to sum it up, what we're seeing is more increased testing across other social platforms. But I really think it depends on, who the brand is and kind of what stage of the funnel they're focused on marketing for right now.
Okay, Awesome. Yeah, and we'll continue to cover this and update you guys as things are progressing. And if things change remarkably, we'll obviously bring it up. The other note that is in addition to the Facebook boycott, there's also an economic blackout called Blackout Day 2020 that's set for July 7th, where the ask is not to spend any dollars all day on Tuesday. And if you must spend, to spend at Black-owned businesses. So again, we'll keep you updated as things progress and unravel. And of course, if you have any questions for us about this, you can always email marketing@directagents.com. The second topic today is on consumer searches and consumer spending trends. As we all know, coronavirus has seen upticks in a variety of states, and the US overall is kind of trending in the wrong direction. So we're really seeing that effect on consumer searches and consumer shopping habits. So Jackson, can you just talk a little bit about what we're seeing from our Amazon search and trend data?
Yeah. So, even as many of the states across the country have moved forward with reopening plans, we've seen a lot of states, most states actually, and including some of the larger states, California, Florida, Texas, they're just surging in coronavirus cases. And in the beginning of the pandemic in March and April, we saw Amazon searches quick in demand within the online marketplaces shift towards personal protective gear, household like cleaners, things like that. And the trends over the last week show a return to demand for those sorts of products, and that sort of just like kind of American consumer mentality. So variations of terms for things like face masks, thermometers, disinfectants, they led to a 27% week over week increase in the demand in the health and supplies category. And that's a category that had started to kind of come down and return somewhat to normal, but it's definitely picking back up. And then, also, we talked a lot about in these early trend webinars, in March and April, that there was an increase in like what we call like panic buying sorts of searches for like things like toilet paper and stocking up on just like general household essentials. And then that kind of died down as people got more comfortable and they understood that they'd be able to acquire those things at stores if necessary. But now again, as cases are increasing, we're seeing a demand for those sorts of products starting to surge. So for a while, it seemed like we were making a lot of progress. Now that cases are returning, we're seeing a lot of that same behavior starting to return that we were seeing in the early days of the pandemic.
So I'm not going to be able to find Clorox wipes again. I just got some.
I haven't been able to find them online. So, yeah.
And also, guys, just so you know, we did chat to the group, our proprietary Amazon Pulse tool that we're pulling this information from. So if you do want to take a deeper dive into these trends or really any trends, please feel free to sign up and you'll have access to everything. And then finally, the last thing we want to touch on is, on one hand, we have a lot of people searching for toilet paper, and on the other hand, we have a lot of people booking summer travel. So Jackson, we're seeing a lot of interesting things when it comes to summer travel trends. So can you talk a little bit about some of those upticks that we're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, looking at just Google Trends, marking interest in different areas around the country, summer travel plans is like surging right now. And of course, right, it's summer, but I think it's important to think about how the mindset has shifted and changed so many times over the last few months. A month ago, or maybe 6 weeks ago, or 2 months ago, people were really excited for things to get better in the summer, finally can get on a plane and travel again this summer, right? But now we're seeing that that's probably not going to be the case for many people. And summer travel plans have shifted more towards outdoor recreation, things that people can do by car or do locally outdoors. So we're seeing, big increases for demand around things like tents, beach umbrellas, camping, mountain bikes, things like that. And these are things, of course, that they have natural seasonality. We tend to see increases in these sorts of things in summer in general. But this year we're seeing a huge lift in these sorts of like outdoor recreation sorts of things versus normal travel, airline travel, hotels, things like that. So it just reflects, again, yet another change in how we're going about our lives, what we're going to be able to do with our free time and take vacation. And, we have one more slide in here, which is, I think, really closely connected to this mentality. But after, the automotive category, it's a category where sales are starting to increase and advertising has come back really strong. And, in April, the auto industry hit a 30-year low in terms of sales. We even saw gas prices go negative for a little while. And now, as it's summer, people are starting to want to get out more, whether going back to work or whether it's to do this, kind of road trips or camping trips, things like that. Auto brands have recognized this opportunity, and we're seeing a huge increase in advertising over the last few weeks versus the several week period before. So like looking back through May. Luxury brands in particular have really ramped up their advertising. Like brands like Mercedes, for example, have increased their advertising like over 800% during period over period. But mass market brands, Toyotas, Fords, things like that, they are also increasing their advertising quite significantly. And you're also seeing a change in their messaging too. So like I'm thinking about this one Kia ad that had come out across major networks recently, where basically the voiceover says it might be a while before we're seeing America from 35,000 feet, but the view from 6 feet is even better, right? So they're basically acknowledging this is how people are going to get around. This is how people are going to experience their summer in their car, traveling, going camping, or just doing things more locally. So just another consumer shift. Every week we try to touch on one industry that is either bouncing back in some sort of in terms of advertising or just has experienced some sort of major shift. And I think auto is very closely tied to changes in travel behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's about it for this week's 10-minute trends. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a wonderful 4th of July. And don't forget, we'll be back next Wednesday at 1:30 Eastern. And if there are any questions that come up, please feel free to email marketing@directagents.com.